Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome back to the channel, and we are back with another battle report. These are coming thick and fast on the channel. I went 2 and then had a pause of about a year, and now we've had a couple in the last couple of weeks, so good stuff and getting some games in. So this battle report, I am facing a friend of mine, Tom, and I'm going to leave links to his Instagram in the description below. He is on Instagram, so go and check him out, that'd be much appreciated. But in the meantime, he's brought his Night Lord's force, which he's taking to the Dark Zones campaign. We're facing each other's Dark Zones forces, so my Thousand Sons and Tzeentch Demons against his Night Lords, and we're going to see how we do. Now in reality, at the event we won't actually face each other because we're on the same faction, the Chaos faction, but it's more about practice of your own army than it is against the enemy that you may be facing. So remembering all the powers, all the buffs, all the auras, all the abilities, keeping an eye on the mission and so on, and just making sure that we're a bit more familiar so that we don't slow play our opponents, because, you know, we don't play that often. We don't play often enough, anyway, in order to make sure that we are super familiar with everything. Regular stat lines, yeah, they've not changed through the years. You know, movement and ballistic skill and so on have not changed. But just remembering those auras, powers, stratagems and so on, very key to keeping the game flowing and making sure that we can get in at least a good 4 or 5 turns within the allotted time. And that's what these battle reports recently and these Road to Dark Zones series has all been about, really. It's not just, you know, can we beat each other, can we kill each other? Yeah, that's all part of the banter. But the reality is we just want to rehearse with our own armies and remember our stuff. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So this is the Thousand Sons force. It's a battalion of 1,000 Sons consisting of 2 Exalted Sorcerers on disc, a unit of Rubric Marines, a unit of Zangors, 21 strong, and a unit of 10 Cultists. That makes up the battalion. On top of that though, I'm running a Forge Fiend and a Mutalith Vortex Beast, plus an Enlightened Shaman and a unit of 6 Enlightened. That makes up the battalion force. On top of that, I am running a Tzeentch Demon Vanguard, which is the one with 3 elites and 1 HQ. The HQ being a Fate Skimmer, which is basically a little herald dude on a disc. Then I'm running 2 Exalted Flamers and a unit of 8 regular Flamers. There's a smattering of psychic powers across the board, from Prescience and Death Hex to regular Smite, also Weaver of Fates, Flickering Flames and so on. A whole bunch of stuff going on like that. So yeah, plenty of psychic powers as befitting Tzeentchian armies and the Thousand Sons specifically. This photo was taken about a week before this battle report, so the Mutalith actually has some paint on him, so you'll get to see that in the upcoming battle report. I don't know if I can hold the camera this high, but there we go. Welcome to this battle report, and I am facing Tom here with his Night Lords. So Tom, do you want to give us a run through of your army for us?
Yeah, man. So starting wise, I've got a Lord with Claws of the Black Hunt. He's my Warlord. He usually starts off in Deep Strike Reserve with a unit of 10 Raptors that have got the Marker Corn, so they can do the reroll charge, because Raptors are remarkably squishy if they don't get into combat. I've then got another unit of 10 Raptors that, using the Night Lord stratagem and using the Night Lord Special Legion trait of -1 leadership, if the Raptors get into combat with 2 units against 1 unit, it's -1 for each unit within 3 inches of Raptors. With the other unit has got the Icon of Despair from Nurgle, they've got the Mark of Nurgle, so that's another -1 for Raptors, and then essentially you can stack that up to -5, so it works really nicely when it works.
So good terror troops then, trying to rely on do the initial damage and let morale do the rest, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Fluff wise, Night Lords are bullies, so they'll take out a unit and then bounce across.
Yep, gotcha.
I want to try and make this as fluffy as possible. 2 units of 5-man Chaos Marines with Flamers, the rest is standard, so, you know, close combat weapons in a Rhino to sit on objectives, potentially take out weaker units. Another Lord with a Power Axe and a Sorcerer, which I've converted out the Primaris Chaplain a bit of the 30k Arrowman, and then some size from my Age of Sigmar Death Army.
Nice.
5 bikes that I've converted up because I kind of use this army for Heresy as well. From the Custodes jet bikes, added some wings and skulls and flayed skin and general Night Lord's nastiness. Usually armed with 2 melt guns and then the Aspiring Champion with a combi melter for taking out vehicles. Usually warp time, shoot a lot of things in the face, giving them the mark of Slanesh for endless cacophony so I can fire twice.
That's a really good combination.
Yeah, especially when you're facing knights like we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, absolutely. So triple melter guns, pretty much going to be in probably 2d6. Pick the highest range for damage because of the warp time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good combination. Like that.
It works lovely. Fire Raptor for fiery death when it works. And then 5-man unit Havocs, again with the mark of Slanesh, just for that extra double fire with the auto cannons, 4 auto cannons in the unit, just to take out any other large units or multi-wound monsters, etc, etc. And then my unit of 20 cultists, which I have kind of modelled using the fluff from the Red Tide. It's a Kakaradon's book. It's Kakaradon's versus Night Lords on a prison world. So some of them are painted up in prison jumpsuits, so in the orange. Some of them are in, I've used the Empire Flagellant kit, so they look like lunatics that have for some reason stayed on the Night Lord ship.
It's straight out of Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, absolute lunatics. I've tried to paint them kind of with as pale skin as possible because very dark, etc, etc.
Yep.
And then probably my favourite cultist character, which I've used from the Age of Sigmar Khorne stuff, as like a slave driver with his whip.
Like it.
And yeah, that's my 1750 list.
Nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy and then play out the game and see what we do. So deployment then, over here in this corner here, as we have Cloak and Shadows and Search and Destroy, which means we've got quarters, my army's kind of bunched up all along here. All the way across to my beloved cultists who are cowering over here. Zangor's over here, and we have a number of objectives. So the first objective is down in this corner. We have one hiding underneath there in the middle, one that the Zangors have jumped on already, one in between these bunkers, one between these power coils. We have one over here in these ruins, which is now being protected by the filthy Night Lords. So the Night Lords have deployed all in this corner. There are a couple of Raptor units that are in Deep Strike Reserve, and although that is just the base at the moment, that is a Fire Raptor, we're just being a bit more cautious about it falling off the edge of the board. So deployment finished. We're going to go straight into turn 1, but we need to roll off to see who's going to go first. So the Night Lords deployed first, so they're going to get +1 to this dice roll. I have a 5.
I also have a 5.
And you have a 5, so that's with the +1, so it's a tie. I have a 3, that's not looking promising. You have a 6. I have a chance to steal on a roll of a 6, which is not on the board. Let's try that again. I have a 1. That's not going to cut it. Night Lords, crack on with turn 1. So end of turn 1 for the Night Lords. These guys over here pretty much sat still. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm sure there is a reason for that. Surprise, surprise, cultists do what cultists do, and that is cower at the back. Mine will be doing something very, very similar. Over in the middle then, just in blue, yeah. These Havocs here with the autocannons have moved forward because the mission on this one means that everything is at -1 to hit at ranges of over 18. So they're going to struggle to hit anything unless they get a bit further forward, which is what they've done. There's a little Lord over here. He's just sort of wandering around aimlessly in the middle of the board. I'm not quite sure what he's up to, but I'm sure there's a plan somewhere. The Fire Raptor over here flew into this corner and unleashed everything it could down in this direction. Again, suffering from that -1 to hit because of the 18-inch night fight type of rule. He managed to kill 2 rubrics and chip 3 wounds off of the Mutalith Vortex Beast. This guy here actually cast Warp Time on these jet bikes over here, and these bikes got a second move and then shot and charged into the Vortex Beast. They did nothing to him, and then he stomped 2.5 of them in return. The Botentacle Maw is superb. So that is the end of the Night Lords turn 1, and we move into the Thousand Suns turn 1. So the end of the Thousand Suns turn 1. Over here then, the Mutalith fell back from combat with those bikes, and then a combination of Smite from the Warlord, the other Exalted Sorcerer, the Aspiring Sorcerer soon finished those guys off. Meantime, the Mutalith added -1 to the weapons on these guys, just on the off chance that was going to be required. The Warlord then cast Prescience onto the Forge Fiend. Forge Fiend let rip at the Havocs that were in here, killing 2 Havocs. Also using the stratagem of Demon Forge, which meant rerolls to hit and wounds, which is very handy when you're -1 to hit with this particular mission. These guys over here, the Enlightened just moved down to the end of here, and that was pretty much the end of the turn. First blood, of course, being scored for those bikes that are now no longer there. We move in to the Night Lords turn 2. So the end of the Night Lords turn 2, the Fire Raptor has moved up to here. It let fire with its Avenger cannon things on the front and some missiles at the Mutalith. Mutalith did lose 3 wounds. The Reaper cannons on the side killed 5 Zangors. They didn't have much of a chance against those things. They are pretty devastating. In the meantime, the Havocs in the middle moved up. They took aim at the Rubrics that were over here. However, -1 to hit because of the distance and the fact they moved meant they were hitting on 60s. Even with Prescience, they didn't do a thing, which is cool.
For you.
For me, yeah, for me. For you, rubbish, yeah. These Fire Raptors that were over here have now moved and swung into this flank to support the deep striking unit with his Warlord, who is in the middle of here as well. They did try a charge. Unfortunately, they didn't make it, even with these guys having the Mark of Khorne for a reroll. And then the Warlord decided to bottle it and not go in unless his friends were with him. So he is a bit of a coward. He's a coward.
Yeah.
Admit it.
He is a coward.
He is a coward. Over here, just one other bit of movement over here was the Rhino that's got 2 squads of 5-man units in there, has moved up and popped its smoke launchers. And that was pretty much it. The cultists over here have done as much as my cultists did over here, which is nothing.
They've had a lovely time.
They're having a party.
They're not getting shot at, they're having the best time.
Very, very true. So that is the end of the Night Lords turn 2, and we move into the Thousand Suns turn 2. So the end of the Thousand Suns turn 2, what happened in that particular turn then? So this Forge Fiend here was prescienced and opened fire up to the Raptor and took off 2 wounds. The Exalted Flamer down here, he let fire and he also took off a couple of wounds as well. So the Fire Raptor is now a little bit damaged, but still within its first tier. My Rubrics down here could only really fire at that Rhino. They did nothing. It's smoking and it's over 18 inches away, so 6s to hit was never going to achieve anything. The Warlord here let fire with his Smite. The nearest unit being that Rhino took off 3 wounds. And the combined power of the Aspiring Sorcerer and the Exalted Sorcerer finished off the last remaining Havocs that were standing on top of this platform here. These guys here, the heroes of the show, came out from the warp and faced a unit of Raptors that are now occupying this empty space. Buffed by flickering flames, which added to the wound rolls for these guys. They rolled something like 22 hits, -1 AP, and yeah, the Raptors that were there is just left behind with this character over here who's hiding at the back. The Enlightened over here were buffed by the Mutalith Vortex Beast. I used the extra power on him for a stratagem point, so these guys were attacking with -2 weapons and a bonus point of strength went into this Fire Raptor squad that were here, and also combined with Cycle of Slaughter, attacked twice, and with a final bit of morale, all 10 of those Raptors have also gone, just leaving this Lord kind of stuck in the middle here, ready for the next round of combat. Non-highlight of the game, the cultists over here are still the cultists over here.
They did fire at the Fire Raptor.
Oh yes, they did fire at the Fire Raptor. They had a cheeky shot. And as I said, they did nothing. And that was the end of the Thousand Suns turn 2. So the Fire Raptor moved up to this position because that was all it could do with a 90-degree turn and move forward. 2 5-man squads of Space Marines piled out of that Rhino and shot and assaulted the Zangors, killing a huge pile. That is the dead pile. The rest then died from morale. The Fire Raptor did its thing and unleashed hell on a whole bunch of stuff, really. It actually killed 1 Flamer and inflicted a whole bunch of wounds. 4 wounds down on the Forge Fiend and a couple of wounds on the Mutalith Vortex Beast. Now over here in the exciting combat then, yeah, not looking so hot over here. And the combat was pretty much a stalemate. I managed to inflict a couple of wounds on the characters and lost a wound in return, but that Weaver of Fate's giving him a 4+ invulnerable save against all of these close combat attacks, plus Tom whiffing his dice rolls, meant that yeah, his lords were down to sort of 3 wounds and a couple of wounds on the other one, and I hardly lost a thing. So it was a bit of a stalemate over here. So when the dust settled, that was pretty much it, and we move into the Thousand Suns turn 3. So the end of the Thousand Suns turn 3, the Fire Raptor was here. You can see it is no longer here. Prescience and the fact he was no longer over 18 inches away meant, and the stratagem for, I can never remember what it's called, Demon Forge, reroll hits, reroll wounds, put out 10 wounds onto the Fire Raptor. Fire Raptor exploded and didn't kill anyone in return. The Zangors that were there are no longer there. However, there was a unit of 5 Marines that were there. They met their fate from these Flamers over here, plus some combined fire from the Rubric Marines. In the resulting combat over here though, the Exalted Flamer took a wound, and that was pretty much it. Stalemate really over there. Over here, this is the exciting bit. So these guys, the Enlightened, have still got Weaver of Fates and Glamour of Tzeentch back on them again. And they managed to chip a wound off of each of the Night Lord Lords. In return, they did kill an Enlightened. And that was the end of the combat over here. Was it? Right?
Yeah.
Anything exciting super happen?
No, Cult was still done nothing.
Just as a recap, the cultists are still over here. And just in case you forgot, there are still cultists over here. But from a victory point perspective, they are claiming objectives, which is doing the damage really at the moment. I am now up to 8 victory points. How many victory points do you want, Tom?
Soddle.
And Tom is on. The technical phrase there, in case you missed it, is Soddle. And we move into the Night Lords turn 4. So we're now at the very quick 3-minute round there of the Night Lords turn 4.
I should have timed it.
We should have timed it. That was probably the quickest turn I've ever played in 40k. But basically, these 2 lords here absolutely rinsed my Enlightened. No matter how many buffs they had, they got twatted into oblivion and did nothing in return. Over here then, these guys beat 7 bells out of my Exalted Flamer. He's now gone and they've just sat on that little objective. I've got a funny feeling Tom's going to finally score some points here. And other than that, that was the round. And we move into Thousand Suns turn 4. So the end of the Thousand Suns turn 4, you see these 2 lords that were there, they got triple smited. So there's 3 units there casting smite. They weren't on very many wounds, and so smite just ate through their invulnerable save and banished the 2 lords back to whence they came. Mutalith Vortex Beast, however, had moved up to secure this objective over here. Started to regen some wounds as well, because Mutaliths and Forge Fiends regen wounds. I was also using the power from my Aspiring Sorcerer to regen wounds as well, which was proving pretty powerful instead of just smiting with him. I did need to get over to Objective 3, so all I did was move the Flamers up, get rid of those remaining 5 Marines. And in the meantime, I also wanted to get over to his deployment zone because I had not only Line Breaker to achieve, but also a card to get into the enemy objective or enemy deployment zone. So that's why that Herald, the Fate Skimmer, has disappeared over there. So lots of movement here, and fortunately my army being pretty quick, you know, sort of 10-12 inch movements, that was all pretty good. But don't fear, the the 2 units of cultists on both sides did nothing. So we move into the Night Lord's turn 5. At the end of the Night Lord's turn 5, a redeployment stratagem came out the bag, and those boring cultists that have been hiding in the corner magically appeared over here. And using Cacophony stratagem, they fired twice, inflicting a wound over here and killing some of my cultists. So there's a bit of cultist on cultist action going on. Finally these guys came out of the shadows and did some stuff. Over here the Rhino came along, opened fire with its bolt guns and did nothing, and then charged this unit here, which we've got to resolve the charge actually. But before it managed to get there, it did take a wound in Overwatch. I had 27 hits, inflicted 7 wounds, and Tom finally managed to work out how to roll a save, albeit all on his Rhino, and managed to save 7 wounds and managed to save 6 of them. It's his best rolls of the game. But we're now going to do the charge, so we might as well. I've got the camera going, so let's do a charge.
Right. He has got. How many wounds he got left? 7.
7 left. He's still top tier.
Yeah, 3 attack.
This is the biggest moment of the game, I think.
This is not tournament level shit.
This is the first charge you've got in the game.
Yeah, I know. 1 hit.
1 hit. This is amazing. What strength though? What strength?
6.
Strength 6. You've caused a wound.
Yes. Go on, fail it.
And I failed it. So he's killed a flamer because I was on 1 wound.
Because you rolled with my dice.
I rolled with your dice. So
which are awful because they're new.
I bet if I rolled with my dice though. No, I would have died as well.
Right.
Rubbish idea. And that was the end of the Night Lord's turn 5. So I get my turn 5, and we see if the game continues. So just for a bit of fun, in my turn, we're going to roll for this. This is called the Smite firing line to get rid of this Rhino. Now, combined fire of those Smites and this Exalted Flamer has killed it. It didn't explode, and then we command pointed it, and it has exploded. It's about to cause D3 mortal wounds to a bunch of stuff around here, so I thought we'd record this one, so that because it's amusing.
It is. Potentially the best thing.
So you want to go on the Shaman first?
Right. So, yep. Rubrics. Exalted Flamer.
This.
That's it.
Yep. I didn't even need to move this close, but I just thought it was going to be funny because I could have been 18 inches away and been perfectly safe.
Yeah.
But no, this is atmospheric. Come on, let's see how good this is going to be.
Right, on the Shaman.
Yep.
On
the board.
On the board. Cocked. Wonderful. 1. Always. See.
So he
D3.
takes D3 is always a 1, as we know.
Sorcerer there.
Yep. On the non-warlord, he takes some damage.
He takes 3.
He has 2 left.
On the warlord. Takes 2.
Takes 2. Means he has 3 left.
On the Rubric Marines, they take 3.
3 mortal wounds. So we don't even roll for these ones. 3 dead.
And then on the Exalted Flamer, takes 3.
Takes 3, which means he is on a wound left because he has 4. So that's probably the single most effective thing in a single turn you've managed to inflict.
From that Rhino.
From 1 exploding Rhino, which was command pointed. But the good thing is, I rolled a 5 for my Helm of the Third Eye, so I got a command point back, having been down to 0 for the last couple of turns. So thanks for that.
That's right.
So the last little bit of action then from the Thousand Suns in their final turn was a little cultist barbecue, as these 6 flamers come in and murdered 13 straight off the bat with no save, and then my cultists got a little bit of revenge. They killed another 5,
yeah,
and then the resulting morale phase the remaining couple just said bugger off.
Sod this.
And that is the end of the game. So there we go then, guys. That's going to wrap up this battle report, and it was a bit of a stomping. The Thousand Suns force that I am rocking, even with all of those drops, the 13 units that I've got, always typically going last in any of these games I've been playing recently because of that -1. Well, I'm not getting the +1, shall we say, to going first. I am suffering from going second. But yeah, I kept my eye on the mission this time. I was drawing some reasonable cards. I had 3 defend objectives in the first card draw of the game, so I had to hold an objective for 2 turns, and managed to pull that off before getting some more offensive ones, like getting into the enemy deployment zone and so on, plus getting Warlord and Linebreaker and First Blood always racks up those points. So I was kind of ahead before Tom even started scoring some points. But I'd like to thank Tom very much for coming over. It was a great game. We had a bit of a laugh playing, some of which doesn't come through on camera. My camera skills still need a little bit of work. I may have to get some kind of stand rather than my shaky camera hand, which I apologise for once again. But it is what it is. I hope you enjoyed the game, though. We certainly did. But if you did enjoy the game and enjoyed the 2 forces taking each other on, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And we shall catch you guys on the next video.